Hey guys, we are back again with part two of our part four video since my pen malfunction. But I think I've got it fixed and I'm ready to go. So, um, we're on page 125. So if you need to pause, get out your ready workbook, go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we have to do again is rewrite the title of our lesson up at the top of our page, determining word meanings. And I've gone ahead and done that. And I've broken it apart for us, so I want you to do this too. So, determining I know means to figure it out. So, I've got to figure out the word meanings. And whenever I say word meanings, I'm referring to figurative and connotative language and the meaning of those words. So, whenever we're dealing with figurative and connotative, after we determine whether it's figurative or connotative, we have to break it apart even further to figure out our tone, whether or not it's positive, negative, or neutral. And sometimes we have to even take it a step further, especially with our connotative language and our connotative word meanings, to figure out whether or not the word choice is strong or weak. So we are ready for the questions that go along with the poem we read, which was from At Loafing Holes. Remember about the narrator and his opinions on city life versus country life. So let's go ahead and get started. So our directions say to use the hints on the page to help us answer the question. So we have to make sure we pay close attention to these hints because they're going to tell us what we need to know to answer the question effectively. So let's look at the first hint before we look at number one, and it tells us to circle the word lore in the poem. What is unusual about its meaning? Let's go back up to the poem and look at that word lore. The word lore is in line 14. I'm going to circle it for us again in red so we can pay close attention to it. So we talked about lore in the last video. We said that lore is a reference to something, a story, something that's written, or could be passed down through the oral tradition. So, what's unusual about its meaning? So, I'm going to make myself a little note that it has to do with stories. So, either written or told, right? So, let's go ahead and look at number one now that we know about the word lore. So, which sentence best describes what the speaker means in these lines? Now I am grown weather-wise with the lure from the skies. And there's that word lure again. So we're trying to figure out what the speaker means by this word lure. And I want you to pay close attention to this word weather-wise because we talked about that word too. So, knowing what we know, I want you to go ahead and make your answer choice and then we're going to discuss it. Okay, so now that you've made your answer choice, let's talk about each answer choice. Let's look at answer choice A. Living in the woods, in the wind, and under the skies has made the speaker grow wiser. Well, has living in the woods made him wise? I don't know. It doesn't even really mention the woods in this line, in these lines, right? So I'm going to say it doesn't mention that. So right now, answer choice A is not looking the best for us because it doesn't mention that he is living in the woods in those lines. So let's look at answer choice B next. The speaker can read, in quotation marks, the wind and skies in order to predict the weather. Well, let's think back to our hint. Read has to kind of do with lore, with stories, right? So it kind of goes along with that. Because you read a story, and we know the word weather-wise has to do with predicting the weather. And it's talking about the wind and skies, right? And predicting and reading. So answer choice B seems like it could be a good option. So I'm going to put a question mark out beside it because it could work, but we need to look at our other two first. So answer choice C, the speaker warns that country life is not for everyone because the wind and the weather are harsh. Well, in those the lines that it gives us, does he ever mention it being harsh? No. He says that it's clean and clear, right? So he never says that the skies in the country are harsh. So answer choice C is out. So let's look at D. The speaker studies the weather and writes stories about how the wind and skies change. Okay, so we've got weather here. It's talking about the weather and it's also talking about the stories. But is he the one that's writing the stories? No, he is not. He's not writing any stories. Um, it's saying that he has grown weather-wise with the lore of the winds. So he is not writing here. So answer choice D is out for us as well, which means that we only have answer choice B to fall back on. So answer choice B is our correct answer. So now let's move on to number 2. Let's look at our hint. Which phrase points out how life in the country has changed him? So we know that we're trying to figure out how living in the country has changed the author. Not the author, sorry, the narrator. So let's look at the question. Which line or lines from the poem best signals the change the speaker has noticed in himself since he has moved to the country? So we're looking for the lines in the poem that signal the change the speaker has noticed in himself since being in the country. So let's look at answer choice A. I have lost my urban ways. Well, if you've lost your urban ways, urban, right, refers to the city. So if he's lost his city ways, lost means it, well, something has changed. So it is talking about a change here. So this is a potential good answer choice. I'm going to put a question mark beside it and we'll have to come back and determine. So answer choice B. Sloping lawns of green are mine. Well, so he's not really, there's nothing in this line from the poem that's mentioning him being changed or changing since moving to the country. He's just talking about how the lawns are his. So answer choice B is out because it doesn't mention a change. So answer choice C, long forgotten plants I know. Well, Mm, did he forget plants? I'm not really sure how this refers to him changing in some way. It doesn't mention a change in the author. Forgotten doesn't necessarily mean change. So answer choice C is out for us too. So answer choice D. Mine the song is the sigh of summer rain. So we looked at this line before. So he's talking about how the song is like the summer rain. It is the summer rain. So that doesn't have anything to do with changing, so this is out. So answer choice B, C, and D don't mention change in the speaker or narrator. So that means the only answer that we have is answer A. The only one that works for us is answer A. Okay, so next we are going to go down to the part where we have to write our answer. So let's look at the hint. We have to look back at the words and phrases that we marked in the closer reading. So what we marked in the poem, we have to go back and look at. What do their connotations suggest about the speaker's feelings? So, connotation is feeling behind the word. So we're trying to figure out what they suggest about how the speaker is feeling. So let's look at our writing prompt and we will go over it together. So, number 3, explain how the speaker uses both connotative and figurative language to show how he likes the country more than the city. We have to include at least 2 examples from the poem to support your response. So we're talking about in our response, we're talking about how he uses connotative and figurative language to show that he likes the country more. So we already know he likes the country more. We are trying to explain how he uses connotative and figurative language to show that he likes the country more. And we have to include 2 examples from the poem to support our answer. So I want you to go ahead and do your written response. And I'm going to go ahead and come back and talk about this with the actual written version. I want you to see my answer, but I want you to come up with your own answer first. So let's go ahead and pause the video and I want you to work on that. And we're going to come back and go over the answer and we will talk about it together. Okay, so we are back, and this time we are talking about number 3 again, and I'm assuming that you just wrote your answer out. So we are going to talk about my answer and flesh it out and discuss how it does the things that the writing prompt is asking you to do. So once again, our writing prompt was asking us to explain how the speaker uses both connotative and figurative language to show that he likes the country more than the city, and we had to include at least 2 examples to support our response. So this is my answer. The speaker uses connotative and figurative language to contrast the city with the country. For example, the city is described with negative connotation, such as grim and gray. In contrast, the country has positive feeling by using words like calm and tranquil days. Moreover, the speaker uses figurative language to emphasize the beauty of the country over that of the city. For example, the poet describes grapes as clustered treasures of the vine. So I was feeling pretty good, and I've got 3 examples instead of 2. You only had to have 2, but 3 is good as well. So I explained in my intro, and I used a races setup for this paragraph. I restated the prompt. I answered the question. I cited my evidence. I explained it, and then I had some summary at the end. So hopefully you did something similar, right? So the speaker uses connotative and figurative language to contrast the city with the country. Restating my prompt right there. For example, the city is described in negative connotations such as grim and gray. So I told us that he uses the negative connotation for the city with the example of grim and gray. And he's contrasting, right? Because we know he likes the country, not the city. So to contrast his point of view of the city, he uses positive connotation, positive feeling words like calm and tranquil days to describe the country, right? So, and he used figurative language also to emphasize the beauty of the country over that of the city because we know he likes the country much better. So, for example, the poet describes grapes as clustered treasures of the vine, and that's my example of the figurative language that the poet used. So, if you want to write down this answer in your source book so you will have a correct version to look back at that goes along with yours, you can, or if you want to put it on a piece of paper and tape it into your source book, not your source book, your ready workbook, or staple it in, you can because I want you to have this answer to look at along with yours. So that wraps up part 4 for us today, guys. So, let me escape from this. Okay, so that wraps up what we've got for today, guys. So, if you have questions about anything we talked about today in part 4, make sure to let me know. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help. So, like I said, if you have questions, just email me, comment on Google Classroom, and I will be glad to help you out. If not, you are ready for part 5. So, good luck on your quiz, guys. I'll talk to you later.